Back again with another video in the test editor tutorial series, and today we are going to talk about BOLA in old API version. So it is a security vulnerability in APIs where access controls for specific data or features are weak or improperly implemented, which allows unauthorized users to get access to restricted resources. So what do I mean by BOLA in old API version? Well, sometimes APIs that are no longer in use could still be accessible, which should not be the case because they might have vulnerabilities. And that's why it's important to test for it. To write BOLA in old API version test, we are going to go through 3 steps. First is to select API request based on their response code and URL using regular expressions. And the second step is to modify the URL of selected request by replacing the version number in the URL with version 1. So for example, if the API request has version 2 or version 3 present in the URL, it will be replaced with version 1. And then the third step is to check the response code of the modified request within the range of 200 to 300. Okay, so let's get into the test editor and write our custom template. We're going to start with ID, which is a unique identifier. Replace auth token old version, and then in the info section we will provide name, and for the description, an attacker can access resources of any user by changing the auth token in the request and using an older version of the API. And then write the details which we already saw, like changing the version from version 2 to version 1, and if it leads to success code, then it is vulnerable. Then goes the impact. In the category, type name, short name, and display name, which is broken object level authorization, and the severity is high. Provide some tags and references. Okay, so until now we wrote details about the vulnerability. Now we will write some selection filters for the API. This specifies filters for selecting API request based on their response code and URL using regular expression. In this case, it selects API request with a response code between 200 and 300 and where the URL matches a specific regex pattern for versioning. Now, the execute section specifies an action to be executed on selected API request. In this case, it modifies the URL of selected request by replacing the version number in the URL with version 1. The validate section specifies validation criteria for selected API request after the modification. It checks that the response code of the modified request is within the range of 200 to 300 response code. And it also checks that the endpoint is not in the traffic context. Okay, everything looks fine. We can save this. Oh, and change this subcategory to the same name as ID. Now save again, select the API collection, select the particular endpoint that you want to test for, it says that the vulnerability is found and we can see the attempts. Here we can see the description, details, and impact that we provided, and in the original we can see the original request and responses. And we can see the URL contains version 2 in it. And the response consists of user ID, name, email, role, fee paid, and amount paid. Okay, now in the attempt, we can see that the URL has been changed from version 2 to version 1, and in the response we can see some extra details like previous amount paid and payment bank as well. Okay, now if you want to automate this, you can just move on to your API inventory and click on Run Test. Then you can select your own custom YML template and then check the Run Daily box. Then it will run this test daily on a particular time. These are the CVEs that you can check. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.